Hello, my dear love, I'm Rose, and today we're stepping into a very interesting energy surrounding someone who may have underestimated you. This reading is for those of you who have felt a sudden change in someone's behavior. Maybe they became distant, maybe they stopped communicating, maybe they acted as though they could easily move forward without you. But underneath that distance, something has been changing. They are beginning to understand your value in a way they didn't understand before. And what makes this energy so powerful is that they may not be comfortable with this realization at all. So take a deep breath, settle your energy, and allow yourself to listen without forcing anything to fit your situation. This is a collective reading, so take what resonates with you and gently leave behind anything that doesn't. Because the strongest message coming through is this: they thought losing access to you would make their life easier. Instead, it made them realize what your presence was actually giving them. When you were around, they may not have noticed the little things, the conversations, your patience, your emotional support, the way you understood what they couldn't explain, the comfort they felt simply knowing you were there. Sometimes people don't recognize the value of something while they're receiving it every day. They recognize it when the silence begins. And your silence has been speaking very loudly. I feel that this person initially convinced themselves that everything was fine. They told themselves they needed space. They told themselves they were being logical. They may even have convinced themselves that you would eventually come back and reopen the door. But something changed when you stopped chasing. When you stopped trying to explain yourself. When you stopped asking them what they wanted. When you stopped carrying the emotional responsibility for both of you. That is when they began noticing the empty space. And this is important because they aren't simply missing your attention. They're missing the version of themselves that existed around you. You brought out something softer in them, something more honest, something they weren't necessarily ready to confront. They could be surrounded by people, distractions, conversations, work, entertainment, and still suddenly feel that strange emptiness. Because distraction can replace time. It cannot always replace connection. And I feel this person has been learning that difference. They may have tried to convince themselves that someone else could provide the same feeling. They may have thrown themselves into other responsibilities. They may have spent more time online, gone out more, talked to other people, or simply kept themselves constantly busy. But eventually, the noise becomes quiet, and that's when your memory returns. It may happen at night. It may happen while driving. It may happen when they hear a song. It may happen when they pass somewhere familiar. Or it may happen completely unexpectedly when something ordinary reminds them of you. And suddenly, all the feelings they pushed away come back at once. They remember something you said. They remember your laugh. They remember the way you looked at them. They remember a conversation that seemed insignificant at the time, but now carries completely different meaning. And they're beginning to understand that those moments weren't ordinary. They were building something. There is also a strong feeling that this person has been asking themselves a difficult question. Did I lose them because I assumed they would always be there? That question is uncomfortable. Because if the answer is yes, then they have to take responsibility for their behavior. And that's where their internal battle begins. Part of them wants to reach out. Another part is afraid. They're afraid that you have changed. They're afraid that you no longer feel the same. They're afraid you may have moved on emotionally. And most importantly, they're afraid that the version of you who once made things easy for them no longer exists. You are not waiting in exactly the same place anymore. Your energy has shifted, and they can feel that. You may not have announced your change. You may not have posted anything dramatic. You may simply have become quieter. But your quietness has created a completely different dynamic. Before, they may have felt certain that they had access to you. Now they're uncertain, and uncertainty has forced them to think. This is why their behavior may appear confusing. One moment they seem completely detached. The next moment they seem curious about you. They may check your social media. They may look at an old conversation. They may ask mutual people about you. They may notice small changes in your life. They may even type a message and delete it. And I want you to understand something. The hesitation isn't necessarily because they don't care. Sometimes hesitation comes from caring and not knowing how to approach the situation anymore. They know that simply returning isn't enough. They know that saying hey doesn't erase everything. They know there are questions waiting for them. And they may not yet know whether they're emotionally prepared to answer those questions. This person has been fighting their feelings because accepting them would require them to admit that they were wrong about you. They underestimated how deeply you affected them. They underestimated how difficult your absence would feel, and they underestimated how quickly you would begin reclaiming your own energy. That last part matters, because the more you return to yourself, the more obvious your absence becomes to them. You were never supposed to become their emotional foundation, and you don't need to become one now. Your purpose is not to wait until someone finally understands your value. Your purpose is to know your value before anyone else confirms it. That is the spiritual lesson surrounding this connection. Don't make your worth dependent on their realization. Let their realization belong to them. If they need to understand what they lost, allow them to understand it. If they need to sit with their choices, let them sit with them. If they need to experience your absence to recognize your presence, don't rush in and remove that lesson. Because I strongly feel that this person is approaching a moment of emotional honesty. Something is going to make it harder for them to continue pretending that they're unaffected. It could be a memory, it could be seeing you doing well, it could be realizing that you're no longer responding the way you once did, or it could simply be the accumulated weight of missing you. And when that happens, they may attempt a small opening. Don't necessarily expect a dramatic confession immediately. It could begin with something simple, a reaction, a casual question, a random message, an excuse to start a conversation, something that looks almost meaningless on the surface. But underneath it, they're testing the emotional temperature. They're wondering, can I still talk to them? Will they respond? Are they angry? Have they forgotten me? Is there still a door open? And this is where your response matters. Not because you need to manipulate them, not because you need to play games, but because you need to honor the growth you've experienced while they were away. Don't immediately give them everything they missed. Let conversation develop naturally. Let actions speak. Let consistency reveal intention. If they genuinely understand your value, they won't only appear when they're lonely. They will make an effort when it's inconvenient. They will communicate when they're uncomfortable. They will take responsibility when accountability is necessary. They will stop expecting you to do all the emotional work. That is the difference between someone missing you and someone being ready for you. Someone can miss you deeply and still not be prepared to love you properly. Remember that. Their feelings are not automatically proof of transformation. Their actions will tell you much more, and I feel this is one of the biggest lessons for you. Don't confuse someone's realization with your responsibility. You don't have to rescue them from regret. You don't have to make their guilt disappear. You don't have to tell them everything is okay just because they've finally returned. Let them experience the consequences of the distance they created. If they truly want another opportunity, they can demonstrate that through patience. They can demonstrate it through honesty. They can demonstrate it through consistency. And if they do, then you can decide what feels right for you. But don't decide from fear. Don't decide because you're afraid you won't find another connection. Don't decide because you think this person is your only opportunity for love. You are not running out of possibilities. Your life is much bigger than one person's inability to recognize you on time. And that's actually what makes this energy so beautiful. Whether this person returns or not, you are becoming someone who no longer abandons yourself just to keep someone else. You are learning to walk away from confusion. You are learning that love shouldn't constantly leave you questioning where you stand. You are learning that emotional availability matters. And this growth is exactly what changes the dynamic. They may have once believed that you would always be available. Now they're realizing that access to you is not automatic. Your love has value. Your attention has value, your presence has value, and your absence has consequences. I also feel that they may experience a strange form of jealousy or curiosity when they realize you are genuinely becoming happier without them. They may wonder who you're talking to. They may wonder whether someone else has entered your life. They may wonder if you still think about them. But don't change your life to provoke a reaction. Live for yourself. If they notice your transformation, let that be a natural consequence. The strongest energy here is not revenge, it's elevation. You are becoming less emotionally available to chaos. And that is exactly why they can no longer approach you in the same careless way. There is one final message I want you to hold on to. You don't need to convince anyone that you're valuable. The right person won't require a presentation. They won't need to lose you completely before appreciating you. And if this person is genuinely meant to return, their return should come with greater awareness, greater effort, and greater emotional maturity. Not just words, not just nostalgia, not just a temporary wave of loneliness, real effort, real consistency, real change. So if you've been wondering whether they finally understand what you meant to them, this reading strongly suggests that something has shifted inside them. They may still be fighting it. They may still be hiding it. They may still be trying to appear unaffected, but the silence has given them something they couldn't get while you were constantly present: perspective. And perspective can change everything. You don't need to chase the outcome. Let them come to their own realization. Let them sit with the memories. Let them understand the difference between having your presence and remembering your presence. And while they are figuring that out, you keep moving, keep growing, keep protecting your peace, keep choosing yourself. Because the biggest transformation isn't that they finally realize your worth. It's that you finally stopped needing them to. And from that place, everything becomes clearer. If they return with genuine intention, you will recognize it. If they return with the same old patterns, you will recognize that too. Either way, you win because you're no longer abandoning yourself for an answer. So take one more deep breath. Release the need to control when or how this unfolds. Trust what people show you. Trust your intuition, and most importantly, trust the version of yourself that survived the silence. Something has shifted. Their perception of you is changing. But your perception of yourself is changing too. And honestly, that second transformation may be the one that matters most. I'm Rose, and I'll see you in the next reading.